Can appreciate your boy Doug Rivers getting hired though, man.
Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. As you can see, we got a jam-packed show here. I got two guests with me, my two regular co-hosts on Scotty Talks NBA. I'm happy to have them both here on the same show. The big topic today we are going to get into is the NBA All-Star teams. We're going to name each and every one of our NBA All-Star teams that we have selected here. So 12 players for each side, East and West. We'll get to Slim's, obviously. I want you guys to go ahead and give Slim a follow at RTR30111. And, of course, give my man Zak Noble a follow. You see him there at the bottom of the screen, at Zak Noble. He's going to give out his NBA All-Star selections today as well. That's why we are gathered here. But along with that, we'll talk Adrian Griffin fired, Doc Rivers hired for the Milwaukee Bucks. And then I do have a question to pose to the group here. You know, the big man era, is it coming back around? But it looks a little bit different this time, I feel. So we'll get into all of that. But before we do so, want to give some time here at the beginning of the show to welcome my guys in. So Slim, Zach, how are you guys doing today, my man?
You're doing good, man. Excited to be here, man.
Doing awesome. Weather's shaping up in Minnesota, and no complaints. I'm enjoying this week of hoops. It's been a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
it's been a classic week of hoops, I would say. How is the weather up there in the north, man? And then I know I got Slim down here in the south, so we might have some
40,
really
50.
contrasting.
40, 50. It's been below zero for weeks on end, and it's looking like spring now.
That's what I love to hear, man. How's it in your neck of the woods, man, Slim?
It's been raining hard as hell as of late, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
We're coming off the snow, so that's starting to clear up. I think we're getting closer to that 40, 50 weather as well. The spring is coming. Hopefully no more winter storms coming through. But let's get into it though, guys. This is my first time getting you guys in the same podcast, which I'm super excited about because I love to have as many thoughts and perspectives on deck as we can get. Obviously, don't want to get it too jumbled up in here, but let's start with that Adrian Griffin news. The Milwaukee Bucks, the second seed in the Eastern Conference, fires their head coach. Sends him shipping, but a lot of people out there, including Milwaukee Bucks fans, are happy about it. They were ready to see Adrian Griffin go. Appeared that there was some disconnect between Griffin, Dame, Giannis, so on and so forth. But then they bring in Doc Rivers, who I believe his contract is locked in till the 2026-27 season, and he's going to get paid somewhere around $40 million from the Milwaukee Bucks, who are still on the books for Adrian Griffin and Mike Budenholzer. So they're going to be paying three coaches pretty top dollar, right? Because I don't know about Adrian Griffin's contract, but I know Mike Budenholzer got a really, really solid one when he extended there. And then I'm sure just in this day and age of contracts that Adrian Griffin's had to be pretty sturdy. So Doc accumulating up over $40 million from this one. I just want instant reactions here to the news and thoughts on bringing Doc Rivers in. I'll throw it to you, Slim. What are your thoughts here on the Milwaukee Bucks situation?
Honestly, bro, I didn't necessarily expect this to happen. No lie. Saying the fact that they just hired him. But there was times where I tuned into a free Milwaukee Bucks game, and him and Giannis didn't necessarily seem to see eye to eye. He would like try to bench Giannis, and Giannis wanted to stay in the game, and different things like that. And then if you flash back to the in-season tournament game when they lost to the Pacers, there was a report that came out said that Bobby Portis challenged him to become a better coach and things like that. So, and from I also understand that they didn't like the defensive schemes that he had put in place. So it just was a lot of headbutting going on. But I ain't expect them to get rid of him this quick, for sure. And with Doc Rivers, I don't just think he's going to change this team. Ultimately, I mean, it's still a terrible defensive team. And if you're going to put the blame on the coach, it's just crazy to say. But we'll see how this goes. But having three head coaches on payroll is definitely crazy, bro. I'm not going to
lie. What about you, Zach? What are your thoughts here, man?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. definitely it was in the works for a while. These players, I mean, too many smoke signals. I second everything Slim said, but the defense just declining. Really, it surprised me. I knew it would a little bit with Drew, but like, I don't think he should have made that big of an impact. I thought they had the personnel outside of Damian Lillard to keep it up. I mean, if Giannis is as good as a defender as I think he is, then they should have been fine. But he's definitely, like a lot of guys in today's game. I mean, not to call anybody out, but you can go down the list. I mean, focus on offense, and if they don't feel like they have the support on defense, they're not going to show up on a nightly basis defensively. It's got to be a team identity, and that's not something Adrian Griffin came in and approached. I mean, there could be some off-court stuff. I mean, he had a crazy police ordeal too that happened last fall that I don't know if that has much to do with it as well. He never really recovered from that, but um, the Doc Rivers hiring, I mean, it's just kind of funny how it happened. It's like I saw a tweet saying it's like the Mets paying Bobby Bonilla. That's pretty hilarious to me. I mean, some of these MLB deals go on for 5-10 years past, and
Tim Anderson one was is it the White Sox that are still paying him or not? Yeah, I've got that completely mixed up. Never mind.
I personally would have preferred Kenny Atkinson, but the thing is, there isn't a ton of coaches out there like readily available. Giannis dug his own grave by passing up on Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse wanted Giannis first and foremost, and sounded like that was his first option. Luckily for the Sixers, and luckily for Nurse, I think he's in a almost maybe a better situation. Just depends on Embiid's health. I would rather have Giannis than Embiid, but I'd rather have Maxey than Dame. So the rest, I mean, is to be debated on the team. But with that said, this is the grave they've built. Now they got to get out of it. And it's funny, I don't mean grave. They're second place in the East. And the thing is, I've always said you can have a top 15 defense in the regular season as long as you can get in that top 10 somehow. You can win the title, but I mean, they've been around 20 most of the year, 20, even less than that for a lot of it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Doc can improve. I don't really look at Doc like really making a huge impact there. I think they're a trade away from being the defense they need. The offense is fine. Doc doesn't need to do too much there. It's probably going to look a lot like the Sixers last year, to be honest. One thing I look out for is, I mean, Doc struggled with two guys in the past. I mean, I think it goes a lot longer than that, but this is recent history. He couldn't figure out a relationship with Ben Simmons, and then James Harden. He kind of put them both in the corner and didn't really focus on that. And then it just spans off the tree, and all these other role players feel that as well. So it's really just the one-on-one with the star, and then even the Clippers. I mean, some of the role players, JJ Redick, what have you, got a little sour as time went. So Dame, I feel like Dame with age is becoming a little sour himself and a little edgy. So I could feel things getting rattled there with Doc. So Doc's got to understand he needs to change. Again, it's tough coming in the middle of the year. So it's hard to put it all on Doc when the team sucks defensively. But it's going to be interesting. He is an upgrade. I do want to say that. He is an upgrade, but it's a flavor of poop, but it's not like a completely solid poop. You know, it's still a little bit tough.
Oh man, that is a hell of an analogy there to end it. But I do agree with what both of you said. I think it maybe not surprising if you hear like all the stuff that was coming out of Milwaukee, some of the stuff that's kind of went down this season. But surprising from the sense of where they are in the Eastern Conference right now and where they are in the NBA. It's like, it's not even like they were plummeting, right? Like it's not like they were dropping down the standings or something and they had to save themselves. They just felt this was the right move. And the weirder part was that Doc was like a consultant for Adrian Griffin, I guess.
Yeah, no,
and then he just comes in and takes his job. Like,
That's some mafia shit.
crazy.
No. At
Oh,
first, you hear
man.
that,
Cold
and
world,
then
man.
CNN reporting it, and I mean the liberal agenda coming in and doing some Hunter Biden
CNN.
Ukraine shit behind the scenes. Doc Rivers,
Why did CNN report it first?
and then they didn't even put it on social for 24 hours later. So it's like, is this even real? But yeah, just
what is going on, man?
a strange situation. But I don't know. I doubt Doc was trying to push Adrian out. I'd say it was more just the Bucks making the call. I don't want to be the one that's saying Doc is doing some weird things behind the scenes, because
I agree with you there. I think it's just one of those one-off situations where Doc is around, right? He's still around basketball. He is ready to step in for somebody at one point. I will say the positive thing about Doc Rivers bringing him in is the connections that he does have around the league. I mean, I know when he was in Philadelphia, he was able to put up a great coaching staff around him with guys like Dave Yeager. So he can bring in an experienced staff around him that can ultimately help as well. But it is those personal relationships with the stars. Like, obviously, I don't think they bring Doc in if Giannis isn't for it, right? Like, Giannis probably sees the way Embiid was treated by Doc and the way things were centered around him, and he probably wants it to be like that. But like Zach kind of pointed to there with Dame, that would be my one worry. Not even that they'll butt heads or something. I know Doc will put the ball in Dame's hands. It's not that. But it's the way Doc talks about players sometimes when he's talking to the media. And I think that type of stuff rubs the players the wrong way. And I think that's where you see like James Harden start to have a little bit of an issue with Doc Rivers, because James Harden, you know, all things being said about James Harden in his time in Philadelphia, he kept everything in-house. He never took it to the media. But Doc Rivers will be that guy that will come out and say a player's name and put their business right out there in the air. So it will be interesting to see how that team works out. But once again, 2 seed in the East right now, a top 5 record in the NBA. So there's not a ton. It's just that defensive side of the ball that you got to get fixed, man. But I want to take the conversation in a different direction here. The big man era, and I want to throw some props to Slim, because he definitely brought this to my attention. I was obviously going to talk about the Sixers because I'm biased and I love Joel Embiid and his 70-point performance. But my man Zach got to enjoy a 62-point performance from Cat earlier this week. And it did inspire the conversation. What were you going to say, Zach?
Enjoy? Did I enjoy that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, did he enjoy it?
I'll let you answer that. Did you enjoy the Cat show on Monday night, the 62-point performance?
I'm not a cat animal liker, and I'd almost rather watch cats run around and chase little fluffy balls. But the first quarter was nice. Outside of that, it just went away. Like, Embiid's had these games too, and many players have, where it's basically a fraudulent 50, 60, whatever have you. I mean, the rest of the team, and that's not necessarily Cat or Embiid's fault or any of these guys that are scoring the point. It's the team that decides to go, let's stop playing the game of basketball and just let this guy go have a night. Yet they forget that they're in the hunt to finish high in the standings. Winning is the most important thing. The coach doesn't care about the stats and is really all about winning. So it was just sad. And I mean, because it's like, if you're gonna do this for a player and it's working, like it was kind of working for about a quarter and a half, and then late in the third quarter it really fell off. But play defense. Lock in on defense. If you're not, like, Ant was assist hunting all game, and assist hunting's like the worst thing ever when you see players do that.
A guy like Ant, especially, right?
Yeah, especially guys that aren't great passers and playmakers in general. and then you just pass up wide open shots. It's just the most annoying thing ever. But like, that's the thing. Embiid's was so special because it was a legit like 64-ish points. Yeah, I mean, they kept him in the game a little too long, and yet the team tried, like, there was like a 3-minute stretch they tried to feed him a little bit, but then they realized, oh, the lead's coming back a little bit, so let's go back to how we should play.
Still got to win this game.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like, and that's what you want to see. And so, like, even they were up by 20 points, feeding Embiid was just fine because they were cutting that lead a little bit from time to time, and I was okay with leaving them in. But I just get really annoyed when these performances happen in blowouts.
Yeah, no, I do feel you there. I do feel you there. Slim, I'll throw it to you. What sparked you? Because you kind of shifted the conversation for me whenever I brought the topic to you. And you did, kind of mention this big man era that is kind of transcending across the NBA, but it is kind of different than in the past, right? But what are you seeing here just with these two performances? What were your thoughts on these performances and just the big man in general this season?
Well, with Joel, I definitely didn't expect him to do that for sure, but I'm not shocked because he's so talented and skilled. Like, his skill set is definitely one-on-one. His ability to be an elite shooter, can score down low, and he become a better playmaker this year. So just seeing stuff like that, you don't really see that too often from big to be exact. They got the whole package, and with Cat, a few years ago, he called himself the best shooting big man. At first, I didn't agree with that, but he's starting to back it up. He won the 3-point contest. He hit 10 threes the other night, which is the second most made by a big of all time. So he's starting to back it up. And then you go down the list with other bigs. You got Jokic, Wemby, Sengun, Chet, Mobley, Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren. So the list goes on and on. But I feel like we may be approaching the era of bigs. But, who knows? But those guys that I just named are very super talented for sure. But with that game with the Timberwolves, though, man, I feel like they were trying to force the issue too much because they definitely was supposed to win that game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They supposed to definitely won. And that's why I appreciate what the coach has said as far as, like, he don't care too much. He just care about winning, basically. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think, just from, the Sixers standpoint, I think Nick Nurse would say the same thing if the Sixers go out there, lose to the Spurs, and Embiid drops 70. You know what I mean? Like, in the loss, it's still an incredible feat. It does take a little bit of credibility away, kind of like you guys were saying. The big man conversation is interesting to me because a lot of these guys, like Cat, we just talked about, he went 10 for 15 from the 3-point line. We call him big man, but he's hitting, shots from the three. Same thing with Joel Embiid. It's like, yes, he gets down in the paint from time to time, will play physical, but where he dominates is in the mid-range, the elbow. That's where he's knocking everything down right now. So it's like, it is the big man era coming like back around, but it is a different version. It's like an altered version in this new era. And I do wonder, man, like with guys like Chet and Wemby, it's like, where is the room for like the smaller guards in the NBA today? Because these big guys are just getting more and more talented. Like the KD like prototype, right? Like Chet, Victor Wembanyama. Like it's like they're getting like taller and bigger stature. It's just wild to me, man, to see the way the league is kind of evolving. But it kind of speaks more to the way the human like body is evolving as well. I'm not trying to get too scientific here, but like Wemby like seeing him next to Embiid was incredible to see just because we know how big Embiid is. He's 7'2", 280. Wemby's 7'4", standing, inches above Embiid. Like I saw Kelly Oubre go up to Wemby and like he like measured his head up against Wemby's chest. Just to like show like how tall, how big of a difference it is between the two. And Kelly Oubre is what, a 6'9", 6'8" guy. So it is interesting where the league is headed, man.
Yeah, I personally still think just with the defensive rules and how these refs are, I mean, calling things defensively. I think it is still an area where you can be a slower, short, white guy that can
Yeah,
shoot the shit out of the ball and just have, I mean, with a great coaching scheme
that
and
is
all these
true.
actions and movement off ball, you can find your way and make a name for yourself. But you're right. With evolution of these bodies, I mean, it's just getting harder to shoot over these guys. And that's so like the game might allow it, but evolution and the nutrition that we are putting in our bodies and just from a science standpoint, yes, I mean, it's hard to deny that. So
Yeah.
the game is going one way, and science is saying another thing. So
Yeah, it is crazy to think about, but
it'd be
it kind of
sick
brings
if
me.
they made it more physical, and then we just get some giants battling out here. And
That's when you see the NBA come full circle, right? And that's when you see these guys really, and they kind of do that in the playoffs. I think that's the wild thing about the NBA is they do let you go and play a lot more physical in the postseason. They let you strap
they
up
do.
in the postseason. The players play a lot harder. It's just almost it's why these conversations, while Embiid scores 70 here, to be fair, there's still that group of people saying do it in the playoffs. That is why, because the playoffs is a different animal once it comes around when it comes to physicality and the level of defense. But let's switch lanes here. We want to spend most of this time on the all-star teams because the reason I did it this early, guys, just to give you guys a frame of mind here, we got the trade deadline coming up in the coming weeks. So I want to focus more on that as we get closer to it. But for now, I did want to, take a look at where we each stand with our NBA All-Star teams. I'll throw it to you guys. Where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start East or West? Because I think the West was a little bit harder for me to decide between.
Let's start in the East because way
It's
easier.
too
You're right.
hard, bro. The West is so hard, bro.
The West is the debates.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through the
West
East.
so hard, bro.
Let's start with starters. I'll throw you mine, and then we can just go in order on the screen here. So Slim and then Zach. My East starters. Now, this is with Tyrese Halliburton injured, so may have to bring in an alternate for him depending on where he's at. But I did have Halliburton in there as a starter. I have Donovan Mitchell as a starter. I have Jason Tatum as a starter. I have Giannis and then Embiid rounding out my starting five for the Eastern Conference. What about you, Slim?
Basically the same. I got Halliburton at the 1, Mitchell at the 2, Tatum at the 3, Giannis at the 4, and then Embiid at the 5. So
consistent there. What about you, Zach?
kind of easy.
Call me crazy. I'm going to shake it up a little bit, but I'm very firm on this. Jalen Brunson over Halliburton. The guy is one of the most underrated players in the league. It's not a stat stuffing performance. He's just so incredibly smart. And his defense, yes, isn't the greatest, but I still think it's slightly better than Halliburton. But I just think from an intelligence standpoint and the offense he flows, and I think he brings more value or just as much as Halliburton, and games played matters to me. I just think value-wise, I like the depth of the Pacers way more than the Knicks. So
fair enough. I do think Brunson has an argument to be a starter for sure. Where the Knicks are at, the way they've been playing, the way he's been leading them, and the numbers are fairly close. I went with Halliburton just because I do just like kind of his style, what he does for the Pacers a little bit more, just as far as orchestrating the offense. But I definitely understand the Brunson plug there for sure.
He's definitely more exciting, I'll tell you that. I mean, except maybe in the last 5 minutes.
And Brunson has played more games, to your point. He's played 42. I think Hallie's at 34, and that's with the injury in mind. So it's very likely that Brunson could end up taking his place, whether that's Brunson, Dame, whoever it may be. But let's go to reserves for that point there. So my reserves I went with here, man. The tough part for me with the East reserves was the guards. There was just so many guards I really wanted to put in here, and I had to make some really tough cuts. But I ended up going with Maxey, Dame, and Brunson as my guards, as my reserves. Now, with Halliburton in mind, if he needs like a sub, if there's going to be an alternate, Trey would be my next guy in. He would be my next guard in for Halliburton. And then I would just shift Brunson into the starting lineup. Outside of guards, I went with reserves, guards, Maxey, Dame, Brunson. Forwards, I went with Jaylen Brown, I went with Paolo Banchero, and I went with Scotty Barnes. And then I went with Bam Adebayo as the backup center. That being said, my honorable mention I would like to throw in here because I went back and forth. Scotty Barnes, and I was thinking Kristaps Porzingis. I wanted to give him the nod there as well. I was thinking him.
Yeah.
Julius Randle came to mind as well. Thought about moving him in there. Jimmy Butler, honorable mention. And then Derek White is the other guy that I would throw in there as the honorable mention. I know there was some talk around him. Just not enough. He kind of tailed off recently. Just not enough to put him in here. And then obviously Trae Young being the first. My biggest snub, I would say, would be Trae Young on this team. What about you, son? Reserves.
Yeah, fair enough. For my reserves, so guards, I got Jaylen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey. I got Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle, and Paolo. And then for my backup center, I got Bam. And as honorable mentions, basically the same guys. Honestly, like somebody get injured, I wouldn't mind seeing Kristaps Porzingis in the game, or Scotty Barnes as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, Scotty was my late add, honestly, to the reserves. I was thinking back and forth, and then I started to think, Boston, they do have the best record in the NBA. They could deserve 3 guys on the team. Like, honestly, they could. But I just wanted to give Scotty Barnes his props. He is like the guy up there in Toronto now, and I expect his numbers to only get better. But maybe that's just a little bias towards Scotty Barnes and my fondness of him. But
a little bias over there.
What about you, Zach? Who do you got reserve-wise?
Yeah, so I'm with everything you guys said there. I agree. But I mean, yeah, you mentioned Dame, so Dame's there, but Paulo, yeah, so he's there. So the biggest disagreement, I mean, Kristaps just hasn't played in enough games for me. When things are so equal, I wish these teams were 15, especially in the West. West, you could go 20, 25 even. But Randall should for sure get in over Scotty. I mean, Randall's just been better. Like, I don't anoint players too quickly, and Scotty will be there next year. I just like players to earn it, and value-wise, winning, Randall's just definitely more valuable. He's been very efficient, very rock solid. I mean, Scotty's just still trying to figure a lot of it out. I mean, I definitely would take Scotty on my team over Randall. I think the Knicks would probably be, if you switched them, Scotty would probably be in over Randall, and all things considered.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, right now I'm giving Randall his due till it's not. I mean, he's stats-wise better than Scotty, but it's close. I mean, you go to catch-all metrics. I mean, Scotty's got a great argument over Julius. LeBron, the global rating scale, those are 2 I really like. Scotty, I mean, he's definitely higher than Julius, but it's not.
I get
like
your point though, because you can argue the Knicks deserve 2 players more than the Raptors deserve 1, right? Like, and that's that. I get the idea behind that as well. And to your point, Randall, basic statistics, he does have better numbers than Scotty Barnes. He's putting up more points, more rebounds, more assists. So I do, well, not more assists, excuse me, but more points, more rebounds nonetheless. I went between those 3. I mean, Julius Randle, Scotty Barnes, and Kristaps. I ended up going with Scotty Barnes, but I understand.
Here's the argument. I think you can argue Paulo and Scotty. That I'm okay with, because Franz takes away from Paulo.
That's fair.
And I just think the Magic are tailing off a lot, and I think that matters as season goes. Come close to where the Knicks are peaking. Randall's only getting better. So I like recency bias and giving them who's growing versus who's declining. Where Scotty started off the season way better. But Trey and DeMar are the only two guys that Trey, DeMar, and Scotty are the three guys that would be replacements. The only other guys that might be up for it would be Franz and DeJounte Murray. I don't think Trey's been that much better than DeJounte. I just think with all the noise with DeJounte right now, he's getting a lot of slack and people don't even consider him. But
he has been playing lights out, almost like he's ready to get moved, man.
He's trying to boost his stock for sure because his mouth says he wants out of
there. Yeah, I believe it, man. I believe it. That is a good point, though. Paolo versus Scotty Barnes rather than Julius Randle. I do get that point because I think what you made me realize by saying that is my bias for Paolo Banchero. And in my mind, Paolo Banchero is a lock. Like, he's on the team. Just because I fuck with Paolo Banchero. I'm a Duke fan, so I need him to be in the team.
His counting stats are there. I mean, it's just this Magic slide is turning me off right now, and
I feel
his efficiency is not great, but I do expect him and Scotty to both for sure be locks by next year.
Absolutely. Slim, let me get your starting five over in the Western Conference. I know this is going to be a little bit harder, maybe not until reserves, but who's your starting five in the Western Conference, man? Whoa, did we lose him?
That Mississippi Wi-Fi.
Oh, chill. That is hilarious. All right, let's see. I think he popped back in here. Let's take that off the screen. The Mississippi Wi-Fi. All right, there. Okay, I think we got him back. You good, Slim? We got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We was just laughing because Zach mentioned your Mississippi Wi-Fi down there, man. That was it was going ham on you real quick. But we left off right at your Western All-Star starter.
Better, man. All right. So the West, man, it was so tough. I can't lie. But so at point guard, I got to go with SGA. All right. And then at the two guard, I'm going to go with Luka. At three, I'm going to go with Ant-Man. At the four, I'm going to put Kevin Durant. And at the five, I'm going to put Jokic. Now, so this is where things really get tough with the reserves, though. But we'll get into that, though.
Yes, sir. No, I actually like it. And you actually made me remember something here. And I think I don't know. I'll let you guys decide once I give you my starting five. But, Zach, I'll throw it to you first. Who's your starting five, man, for the West?
Yep, so the exact same. I mean, Ant or Luka, 2-3, however you decide. But for me, it's easily Kawhi over KD. Kawhi's just been way more polished, way more sound, two-way player. I don't think KD's defense has been very good, but he's just been the better player. I haven't missed a Clippers game. It's one of the most fun teams I've ever watched, to be honest. They're just playing so in sync with each other and how basketball should be played, where Phoenix is still trying to figure it out, but they're looking better with time. They're flying under the radar right now, but KD's been rock solid as always. Just defense is kind of sliding, and I prefer Kawhi right now.
So
catch all is close though.
You had the same outside of KD. You just have Kawhi in for KD.
Yep, and I definitely have KD as a reserve. So
gotcha. And so that it's interesting that you both had those were the differences in between you guys as starters. But when I look at mine, it's like I kind of made the difference of both of your starters. So I went with Luka, SGA as the guards. I went with KD and Kawhi as my forwards. And then I went with Jokic as my center. So I honestly feel bad. After I heard Slim's starting five, I was like, God damn it, I forgot Ant Edwards. He should definitely be a starter for my money. So if I had to move Ant into the starting five, I would probably move Kawhi out. I don't know. It's tough between him and KD for me.
It's tough.
You know what? I'll just stick with mine. We'll give the nod to the vets. Kawhi, KD, they get to start for me in the All-Star game. Ant can come off the bench. He'll earn his stripes. So he'll get to start plenty of times for the All-Star team in the West.
So I'll tell you, analytically, Ant
Fair enough.
isn't very close compared to KD. So, I mean, I'll give you the nod there. I mean, you can definitely say KD is the better player right now, but just from a value.
I like Ant more. That's what it comes down to for me. I just like Ant more than a lot of players in the NBA. And I know I would imagine that has to be true for you, Zach. But yeah, when Slim said Ant in the starting lineup, I was like, how did I not use my bias rightfully there?
Man,
no,
shame on you, bro.
Zach got me. He's gotten me hip to the Ant train, man. But Slim, reserves. I know this is tough, man. Let's do it this way. Let's start guard reserves in the West.
Okay, guard reserve. So for my guards, I gotta go with Steph. Gotta go with Steph. No other choice there. So this where things got tricky, man. So I'm gonna go with D-Book and PG-13. So tough, bro.
So
those are my guards, though.
Man,
D-Book and PG, correct?
Got issues, bro. Got issues.
What do you got, Zach? Where do your issues lie?
All right, call me crazy, man. Steph is for sure off the team, and Steph's my favorite player in the league, bro. Steph is for sure off the team. He doesn't deserve to make it. Dude, he's the 12th seed in the West. Like, what kind of standards are we setting for Steph Curry? LeBron and Steph off the rosters, bro. Neither of them do. Like, they're like, what's the award? I mean, they're not grandfathered in, man. I'm sick of that shit. The league's too good talent-wise. Steph's amazing, yes, but like it matters. Value matters. If we're gonna hold everybody to the same standards, those two need to be off. So with that said, Fox is for sure in. Okay, and only other guards. I'm leaning towards more bigs on this. It's Fox and Harden for me.
Fox and Harden.
James Harden is the second best player on the Clippers, and it's not close value-wise. It's catch-all metrics. He's been a top 10 player by all LeBron and global rating scale. The last, I don't know, ever since the first week he was there. Clippers are arguably the best team in the league right now. It's just they're playing as a team. He makes everybody better around him. It's incredible what he's doing for him, and he does exactly what the team needs on a nightly basis. And it's just his counting stats that people don't give him credit for. But yeah, he's been incredible. Fox, I mean, you can argue. I'm not going to be mad if you take Booker over Fox, maybe, but I don't. Given like PG is so hard for me to leave off this. It's so hard.
Yeah.
PG you can take off for one of these other guys, but to give the Clippers would have to be first in the West by a lot to get three guys in this competitive of an environment.
No, I think that's I think you made some great points there. The Steph and Bron points. they hit me hard because I do have Steph and Bron here on my team, on my roster. And
It's
I do
so hard
get,
to leave him off. You don't want to be that guy.
I
But
know.
listen to this. LeBron James, I mean, in the last 30 days, doesn't rank in the top 30 from the global rating scale. And bro, just watch his game. He doesn't play
Yeah.
defense. I mean, he
Yeah.
literally doesn't play make and pass. Like, the dude isn't trying to win basketball games right now. He's not even remotely close. Like, he's just good enough to get points. I mean, I'm
No,
sorry. Like, it's not necessarily a Darvin Ham issue either. It's a LeBron issue. Like, the I would love to see LeBron James go to Philly and get that team a title. Like,
yeah.
he'd be the perfect guy there
Yeah.
because in a already polished
It's right.
environment, man, there's only a couple teams. If he has the perfect roster around him, point guard, center, where the offense can run through him, where he can just be a connecting piece, and be exactly who he is right now, game changer. Philly or Miami would be so sick, LeBron right now, but like, the roster, I think if LeBron was 2 years ago, this roster should be completely fine and great. But you're getting good enough performances from everybody else. It's tough to leave them off, man. It really is. But I mean, unless do like what you did with Dirk Nowitzki a couple of years ago, Vince Carter, put LeBron in that category, like he's
Yeah.
just grandfathered in. You
Yeah.
know,
And
Steph too, maybe,
that
but I don't believe that was
and
Steph.
that's kind of what I was operating with. Like, it's like, do you want to put your own all-star team together, or do you want to put what you think the all-star team will be together? You know what I mean? Like, that's where
Oh,
my
if
fine
I'm gonna
line was with this
if I'm gonna
because
pick, I mean,
LeBron
Harden.
he's gonna make it with fan vote, right? Like, Steph
Right.
is gonna make it with fan vote,
Yeah,
right?
I don't go by what I predict. I mean, I predict that LeBron and Steph will both be in because of the most two loved guys, and Harden's the most hated for sure.
Yeah,
So, but like Harden was in last year, he just declined it. I mean, it was
yeah,
a last minute invite. But like even last year, I mean, by catch all metrics, he was up there, and I think he's as good, if not better, this year. He's
yeah.
just on a more top heavy team statistically.
You
So
knew I wasn't gonna have Harden on my all-star team,
yeah.
but no, I'm kidding. But
This-
uh, my
I would never
guards in
judge
the
you
West.
for.
My guards in
I'm
the
only-
West were Ant. I did have De'Aaron Fox. I have Devin Booker, and then I did have Steph Curry on my All-Star reserves team. But I do kind of get where you're coming from, Zach. I think if I were to take Steph off, it would probably go to PG, Paul George. That is like my big snub of my reserves here in the West. I hate leaving Paul George off because he's one of my favorite players in the league as well. But
He's just had too many duds for me this year too. Like he's
yeah,
had, like it's crazy. It's just
and I
he'll
think
take
there is an
many.
argument for Harden over PG. I think there is an argument there, like you said. So
There's no denying that Harden's the second or most valuable guy on the Clippers right now. If you watch 80-90% of their games, like he is the system of that team and orchestrates it all. And he's gotten better with every single player out there. Him and Russ are even looking better. But yeah, I mean,
how'd you
Kawhi,
guys just on the guard front, how'd you guys feel about Kyrie Irving?
he hasn't played enough games,
Not
and
enough games.
he's also I think he
Yeah,
just got injured
yeah,
again.
that's a perspective. He hasn't played enough.
But
Yeah,
also the
you're
West
right.
is just too good
27
for
games.
him.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Yeah.
the West is just too good for him.
De'Aaron Fox. So I know he was a tough one for me. Like he was like one of the last ones in for me. It kind of came down to him and PG ultimately, but his numbers are like out of this world, man. Like honestly, I think the last time I wrote these numbers
Yeah.
down, I believe on Monday or Tuesday, so they could have changed by now a little bit. But I have him down as 29 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists on 47, 40, and 72% shooting. 72 from the free throw line isn't great, but The 40% from the 3-point line, I love for De'Aaron Fox. And then just, what the Kings are doing over there in the West as well. That's kind of what I factored in here. The fact that they are, kind of staying afloat. I know they're at the 7 seed right now, but he runs that train full steam. So I kind of felt like I had to get De'Aaron Fox in there, and he's just a fun player too. I feel like he would be fun in an All-Star game.
The only way I'm okay if leaving De'Aaron Fox
sure.
off is if you have Sabonis in, because you can make an argument Sabonis is better and more valuable now, but that was the hardest one for me to leave off is Sabonis for sure. I hate it because this is the best Sabonis there's ever been, and he's made
it before too, right? Like he made it did he make it last year?
Yeah, I think he's like a 2-time All-Star, if I'm not mistaken.
Or was it when
he is. No, he made it last year. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, 3-time All-Star. 3-time All-Star. But yeah, I'll just tell you who I got. The rest of the way I got. It should match up for the requirements. But I got Cat, Brandon Ingram. I don't care if you have Zion over him. You can have Zion. One of those two got to make it, I think. The team's been too good not to. I took Ingram over Zion. He's played a couple more games. I also think he's just been more polished in his role and as a player. KD, AD. I said Cat, yeah. And then Lauri is the last one for me. It's just the late surge. The Utah Jazz are coming along, and I think they're here to stay. They're just getting better as time goes. So I think it's a move that will age well. And his supporting cast has just been ass compared to everybody else. So it's really hard to leave LeBron off for Lauri Markkanen. Yes, I get it, but LeBron has a way better supporting cast, and I'm not giving LeBron and AD the ad, and AD's been better than LeBron. So pick your poison. Take AD off, put LeBron in, sure, but I disagree with it wholeheartedly.
No, you definitely you definitely have kind of talked me out of Bron. Like I said, I came into it with Bron is going to make it, so I want to factor it into my spots. But like, do I think that LeBron should make it is the big question there. But Slim, I'll throw it to you. Who are the rest of your reserves in the West, man?
Man, so that kind of talked me out of leaving LeBron off my team as well. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you.
But
Zach, you're winning us over here, man.
I live by everything's earned, man. Everything's earned, and it's such a competitive league. The league's too good. Make these teams 20 or 15, and
and then you can have the grandfathered spots, right? Like if you have 15. You can throw 2 at the end that are just grandfathered in, like Chris Paul and LeBron, right? Like,
let's say maybe if you've made like 10 or 12 All-Star games, you're just grandfathered in forever or something.
Yeah. If you have 15 spots, why not?
Sound about right. Yeah.
What do you got, though, Slim?
So to finish out my reserve list, I got Kawhi, I got Sengun, I got AD. I got Jalen Williams out of OKC. I feel like he's an all-star this year. I got Brandon Ingram. And to Zach's point about Steph, I can see, holding him to the same standard as LeBron. So if it's one guy I want to replace him with, I'd go with D Fox. So, yeah, those are my reserves in the West, man.
Why no Harden for you? Do you not watch the Clippers much or what?
Harden was tough for me. I wanted him to be an all-star, but it was tough to I think I just chose D Book over him, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, preference. I mean, watchability in the All-Star game, because I get that. I mean, that's my thing is these players just take these awards too seriously. All NBA is way more important, but I mean, if the players didn't take it seriously, I wouldn't care as much. But I mean, from a fan perspective, I get just picking who you want to watch in the game, even though the game's not great anyways. So why not? I like, from a historical preference, I like things being accurate and tight, but I'm kind of a lame and outsider for that. But Sengun, I mean, I love to hear your reasoning on LP, because he was for me for a while, and the only guy I could maybe consider him over is Lauri, or it's so hard not to have 2 Timberwolves on being tied for first.
Yeah.
But like I'd have Chet over him for sure. I'd have Sabonis over Sengun like by a mile. So it's just Gobert even over Sengun. So I don't know if you got any reason. I'd love to hear it.
I don't think nobody expected him to be this good. Like he's averaging career highs all across the charts, and yeah. So I watched a few of his games, and I was like, man, this kid is so skilled. But yeah, I just don't think nobody expected him to be this good the way he popped off this year.
Yeah, he's definitely in the hunt for
Kind of like a shock factor.
most improved player of the year for sure. But
Yeah. Looking at my reserves, man, this is just really tough, and hearing the conversation around it is wild. But I'll give them to you straight up here. As I mentioned, the caveats are Steph, Bron. I think Zach, you made some great points there. As far as them, just kind of where their teams stand, what they've done this year, they don't ultimately deserve it over some of these other guys. So I can get behind that notion ultimately here. The team that I went with, or the reserves that I went with ultimately here, would be so Ant Edwards, I already mentioned to you. He's my reserve guard. D-Book, reserve guard. Fox, reserve guards. From there, I went AD from the Lakers, reserve forward/center. I went with Lauri Markkanen. And then if I'm moving Bron out, I'm going to go with Paul George, and I'm going to move him in. So that would round out my reserves here over in the West. But the Lauri Markkanen, Sabonis, and I did even have Sengun in here as an honorable mention, because I do think, Sengun and where the Rockets were at a certain point in this season, right? They've kind of fallen back, and it's
right,
kind of similar
like the Magic.
to Orlando. That's exactly who I was going to say. It's similar to Paolo. It's similar to Orlando in that situation ultimately. So I can understand that. And I do think Lauri Markkanen, it's the crazy thing about Lauri on the Jazz and kind of the conversation around him is, him being mentioned in like trade rumors. I don't understand why they would trade him. Like, I just truly don't.
Still,
since he got there,
I
don't
wouldn't.
understand.
Yeah, I absolutely wouldn't, because he's a perfect player to have in Utah, and I think you can build around him. But he isn't young by any means. He's approaching 28 here, and
Yeah.
maybe like a sell high, and just because they don't think they can build enough quickly around him. That's the only reason why it would make any sense. But I'd still, you want to keep somebody good, and like he's good enough to keep him around 500 and keep you in the playoff race. I mean, he's shown more value than Steph Curry and LeBron this year. Like,
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. That is crazy, but it is true, man.
The hardest thing for me in all of this
Never thought the
is
Utah
to
Jazz
leave.
have a better record than the Warriors.
The hardest thing for me in all this, I'll just say, is to put Brandon Ingram here and Anthony Davis, just because I like Booker, PG, kind of even LeBron more, but it's just,
Pelicans deserve someone.
I feel like, Pelicans deserve someone, and
I do get that.
it's just so tough for me to leave
tough.
Booker and
Super
PG
tough.
off are the toughest, because I really like the way the Suns are trending right now, and Booker's been rock solid. I just think he's still taking a step back from last year, and PG's just been as good as ever, really.
Yeah. Sabonis, man. It just, it doesn't. I guess it just doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna feel wrong no matter what. Like,
Right.
I think that's what I'm realizing.
Somebody's got to get left up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Somebody
where
got
I'm
to
at.
get left up.
So I'm trying to think here. Who are the consistent ones that made it in the West across all of ours? So Luka, SGA, KD, Jokic, locked. Kawhi, locked. Ant Edwards, locked. I think we all had De'Aaron Fox. Is that correct?
Yes.
He will be like a replacement for me. So I got Steph over him.
Okay, so you got Steph. We got Ant. We got AD. D-Book was off of Zach's, but on Slim and I's, right? And then I think that those would be the only ones in common. So AD, Ant, Kawhi, Jokic, KD, SGA, Luka.
Do you have Kawhi on your list?
Yeah, I think we all have Kawhi. It was just whether or not he's a starter or reserve, I think. Did you had Kawhi, Slim?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Kawhi. Yeah.
It's interesting, man. The West is like 10 times harder than the East. I will say that.
Not even close.
Yeah.
But what I'll do to like make this easier to understand, because I know we got jumbled up here at the end. I will make a graphic. We'll put this out on social media afterwards with each of our 3 teams we've constructed here, and we'll get that put out on all the socials. Make sure that we got those covered. But interesting conversation, though, man. I would say, Zach, you won me over on the Bron and Steph convos, and now I got to keep that in mind going forward, man.
I just wish the voters and coaches and that make this. I mean, it's if LeBron stood up for his teammates a little bit and doubled down that we got the group. He's just been way too negative for me this year, and I don't think yes, he would be butthurt, but I would rather him be butthurt and be motivated and want to destroy everybody the last second half of the year to remind him who he is. But yeah, I mean, it's everything's earned, and why not just give him a lifetime spot or whatever?
Yeah, at this point. I truly agree.
Yeah, shame on your status for not having Harden on your All-Star team, man.
I know, man. Harden.
Dude, Steph's my favorite player, and it's so hard to leave him off. I mean, it's incredibly hard, but I try to be as unbiased as possible, and it is what it is.
No, I
get
feel
better,
that.
Steph.
Yeah, hey, you got to get the Warriors in a better spot. But you see my man Slim's hoodie he's got on. He's got a little bit of bias in there. I did too. I had Steph on my list as well, but I do think you make great points. Team standing does get factored in for mostly everything else, everyone else, right? We're talking about the Eastern Conference. The Celtics deserve 2 or 3 people. Well, then, this team deserves a person over LeBron or over Steph, whose teams aren't even in the playoff picture right now. So definitely understandable.
Half the league makes the playoffs. If you can't have your team even just remotely in the play-in, give me a break.
I do. I think that's fair, man. I don't care
who's on your team if you're that good.
But we'll have to get together again, do the trio board here for the trade deadline. We'll get a trade deadline special together and see if we have any breaking news around that time. But next week we'll get back to the regular schedule and break down all the latest news. As you guys know, Zach joins me on Tuesdays. My man Slim joins me on Thursdays here on Scotty Talks NBA. That's going to be it for this episode. Hope you did enjoyed. We had a lot of arguments and disagreements in this one, which maybe it's because we had 3 people instead of 2 this time. It creates more perspective, so it's nice to have those conversations. But give my co-host here, Slim at RTR30111, a follow on Twitter, and of course give my other co-host here at Zak Noble a follow at Zak Noble. It's his name. It's on the screen. You see it. Of course, you can find myself at Scotty Drowned. That is going to be it for this episode, guys.